red leather, yellow leather. Hmm. It
Mm.
works. Oh, this is Darrell as a service, and you've got regarding 365 and 365 message center, and let's just roll it. Good
Darrell,
now, Daniel Glenn.
what is up, my friend? How
Oh
are
well,
you?
it's a week of announcements, a week of stuff within the message center,
Yep.
a week of community discussion, and a weekend of fixing a lawnmower.
Good.
Yeah.
I think, and I always like it when I see people, doing those kind of things instead of saying, scrap it, I'll go buy another one. Well,
Mm.
actually fix it. So good on you. Fix that lawnmower and mow your lawn. It's all good.
It's tricky though, isn't it? Like when you
Mm.
can go and get a new lawnmower for maybe $200 more than what it might cost you to get fixed, but yeah, this has been overdue. The blades are going
Yeah.
on. It's just I was certainly going round in circles to try and get seized bolts out.
You're going
What?
around in circles, get it, lawnmower goes around and
Actually,
anyway,
I have a plan. I don't know if I should announce this. Yeah, let's just put it out there because then I have to do it, right? Given
okay.
that it is Movember and I need to mow my lawns, I was figuring that I could mow out a moustache in this long grass
Mustache.
that I have there, and then lie in it and do this. You know, it's like a moustache angel.
How are
What do
you
you
going to
reckon?
take the picture?
I'll just get one of my kids to take it. Yeah.
Like just jump up real high
No,
or
we've got a picnic table out there. They can just sort of go. Yeah.
okay.
Actually,
Um,
if anyone in New Zealand has a drone handy,
there
that'd
you
be
go.
great.
See, that's what I was thinking. A drone would be great.
Yeah.
So, I'm kind of the same way. I have a last time I went camping, I pulled out the stove and it didn't work for the first time. And someone was like, "Whoa, this thing's old. It's from 1976 or something." Is the year on it. One of those old Coleman green camp stoves.
Mm.
Um, and it's great because it uses different types of fuel anyway. Um, but it didn't work. And then they were like, oh, you can go and buy a brand new one probably for the same price as to fix this because who knows where you're going to find parts.
Mm.
And I was like, yeah, but you don't want to scrape it now. Like, it just feels like, it's such a waste. So anyway, good
Yeah.
on you. Fix the
Yeah.
lawnmower.
And look, people like Liz would be proud of you too because if it's a cooking surface, and it's
Mm,
got all that character and all that years of conditioning is probably the best way to put it.
conditioning.
She
Yes,
has her baking trays and they're conditioned and they always
that's
produce
right.
good cookies. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Cashman's
So
like them.
yeah, yeah, they did. All
On with the
right,
show.
on with the show. Um, so in terms of our messages for the week, we have this familiar one that we were talking
Is
about.
it?
Yes, it's
Do-
familiar.
I've never heard of this. What is this all
Yes.
about?
Yeah, this thing about creating org-wide teams, and for those of you who are watching us live, you will notice the little eye in the corner there, which you can click on. We have dropped a card in there, so you can find that we have debated this topic, and it was a great debate. It was good to hear the different opinions and thoughts around this. So summing it up again, Dan, so people don't have to watch the whole video right now. What is this about?
This is about giving your organization the opportunity to have a space to have conversation and to work with each other. There are limits, so if your organization has more than 1,000 users, you won't be able to do this. But being able to have an org-wide team, so
Mm.
everyone has permissions in that team to engage and have conversation.
Mm. And they're
The
automatically added too, aren't they?
Yeah,
As they
it's
get.
not a yeah, it's kind of like that permission level like in SharePoint, the
Mm.
everyone group. The same thing is you're putting everyone in there, and they're all going to be a member of that team.
Hmm. Yeah, so
Uh,
we did
yep,
cover a lot in the debate and the pros and cons of
yep,
that. We even talked about capacity, or rather the experience of what would it be like to have a conversation with, up to 1,000 people in one of the conversation channels. And
yep.
of course, we had all sorts of thoughts about, well, we can divide things into channels, and there's different controls to say that the general channel can be only owners of the team are allowed to make announcements, and everyone else just has to read them. They can't respond. Lots of different things, and then of course the discussion about where does this fit with Yammer and the overlap. But I think what you picked up on, Dan, was something interesting at the bottom of this message,
Hmm.
that it is 1,000 members as a limit
Right now.
currently. Yeah.
Says that last sentence there in that section, we're looking to increase this limit in the future. So that is one thing we talked about in the debate, and was spoiler alert. So if you haven't watched the debate, maybe cover up your ears. But the even the people who were for this concept even admitted, all of them, that um, if it was more than that number, more than 1,000, they probably wouldn't like it. And
Hmm.
so this is okay. There it is 1,000 now, but that doesn't mean it's going to be 1,000 in the future. So
Yeah.
I think that's interesting. The I like this. What do you need to do to prepare this change? I always point this out, or I like to always point. There's nothing you need to do to prepare. Yes, there is actually. There's a whole lot you need to do to prepare for this. So the one
No,
thing
no,
you have
no,
to
no.
be.
There's not. There's not. I mean, it's a bit like Yammer, right? You add people to Yammer, and they get a bunch of notifications, and people can find their own way. You know.
Yes, but purpose. Darrell. I know you're joking. The helping people understand how to use it, getting training. So it is important to understand that to do this, you have to be a global administrator, or users with administrator permissions. So,
Hmm.
but anyway, yes, you do have to prepare for this change,
Yep.
and it should be rolling out like now. So
Yeah.
if you don't have it, you soon will.
And it is one of those. Oh, I even saw a short link just appear very briefly as you click through additional information, aka.ms/org-wide teams.
That's right.
So it has its own short link. It's right on target there for information about what it is, why, and how to turn it on. And you can
Yep.
only have one org-wide team too, so it's not something you can set up for various different purposes, or rather various different teams. But yeah,
Yep.
that's great. So there it is, and do check out the debate for some lively conversation around that too.
Hmm.
Uh,
And a rather handsome moderator.
But yeah, and thank you for that. That was a great job, and you're qualified
No,
now, so
please.
you can do the rest of them. Ha ha.
Rats, I'm supposed to do a terrible job and
Oh yeah, you're
never
fired.
be
You're
asked back.
fired. You know what? I'm not giving you a raise. You know how many people have actually
Rats.
asked us about this regarding 365 company, and at Ignite, where was our booth, and
Yeah, where's our
uh,
booth
where
and
is your
how?
piles and piles of swag?
Yeah, where's your swag? Don't you bring boxes of swag like everybody else? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, who's gonna pay for that? Um, anyway.
Yeah. All right. Um, the next one up is around. Well, I think it involves Exchange as well as SharePoint.
Mhm.
Your sensitive data types.
Mhm.
So we have had this feature first of all in Exchange, where it was looking for things like credit card numbers that might have been discussed in an email, and it prevents it from being sent out. So kind of related to data loss prevention as well.
Mhm.
To create your own, it has been quite a laborious task for those
Mhm.
who might want to just quickly put one together. What have you had to do in the past, Dan?
PowerShell.
All right.
It's so, but to use PowerShell, you have to create a rule package.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, which is XML, but basically to create it and then you go and execute it, right? And to create the actual um, the actual type. So for those that don't know PowerShell, or maybe didn't know how to use it in this context, it wasn't the easiest thing to do. So now we're able to create these through the UI.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's great. We talk about this a lot, though, that this is the way things come to us through, especially in the administration side of Office 365 and those services is in Microsoft 365 as a whole, is it's PowerShell and then UI. Now,
Mm.
not everything is like that, but most often it is. So there is a key here to understand, though, is that the UI functionality is not the same as PowerShell. PowerShell has more functionality and is more powerful still than what we're being given with the UI, but it is simpler because you have a UI to create those.
Mm. So the UI could be used for making quick changes, quick additions, and simple rules.
Simple,
Whereas
yeah,
if,
simple ones. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
but you can imagine, let's say if you're in a consultancy role and you've gone through a workshop talking around governance, and you've guided people through about what you're going to put in place, that you potentially have already scripted all this and put it together. So then you'd still want to use your PowerShell method for getting this all set up.
Maybe so. And the additional information on this one is good as well. It's the page for how to create a custom sensitive information type, and it is updated for the UI. Gives you information about what is available in the UI versus PowerShell.
Mm.
I mean, this is a good one as well to read. So if you're interested in creating these, this is definitely a post that you need to be reading. So it was
Mm.
created just a few days ago, over a week ago, but it's good information.
Yep, and more successes there for the docs.microsoft.com platform for how this is being
Yeah,
used. It's really really going well.
yeah,
Um, well, moving into our third message. Um,
yeah.
is quite an exciting one, really, for those of us who are starting to use SharePoint Online hub sites.
Hmm.
Um, Up until now, we've created the sites first. We've nominated a site to be the hub, and we can do that now from the SharePoint Admin Center.
Hmm.
Um, but
The
this
new the
one,
new the new admin
yes,
center.
the new
Yep.
Admin Center, correct.
Hmm.
But now we're actually going to be able to do it in a more natural flow of how we might set up these sites.
Yeah. So
Coming back there, waiting for that connection to kick back in. Well, Daniel's unfreezing.
my
um,
frozen still.
you are back. You are back.
Yay!
It wasn't chilling news. It was good news.
Oh.
All right.
So before, when you're creating an intranet, you would create a site and then create content underneath it,
Mm,
and that's the process you would do. But when hub sites were introduced, it was you need to designate a site, like you said, as a hub site, and then the sites that you've already created,
mm-hmm,
link them to that hub site. And
mm,
this is now you can have a hub site. So you create a site, promote it as a hub, and then create sites from that,
mm,
from within that UI of the hub. So you don't have to go and create it separately and then link it.
yeah.
Um, and it says here in the post that it's going to be the same site creation process. So I'm assuming I'm taking a jump here, a leap here, that it's going to be the same create site experience from the SharePoint Home.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you'll be
Yeah.
able to choose
Well,
communication team.
if we put this into a scenario too, which makes a lot of sense, one of the uses for a SharePoint Hub site has been talked about, and some orgs are starting to use it. Is it's a project landing site, and so you will attach each of your projects as sites that are connected to that hub. So the natural progression there is we go to the hub, we can create a new site. It's going to become part of that hub immediately, and of course, as you keep creating more projects, it's all going to be connected to that hub.
That's right. Yeah,
Hmm.
and your news and all that rolls up. Yeah, so it's I like this. It's I don't see a downside to this,
Hmm.
especially if it's the same create site experience you would do from the SharePoint home. It's the same thing you would do anyway, except you don't have to leave the hub. You just go to the hub and it's going to link it for you, right? Rather
Hmm.
than those additional steps. So I don't know that I see a downside to this. So I'm liking it.
One thing that we were talking about, questioning, was whether or not um, it's going to create a new Office 365 group attached to that SharePoint site as you
Yeah,
create it.
I
So
would I would
feels
assume
like it
so.
would.
I
Yeah.
would assume it's the same processes from when you're SharePoint home, which, if you select when you select that communication site, it's creating a group. So
Mm.
I would assume that that's exactly what it's doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And therefore, if we sort of think back to last week's announcement or message that we will also be able to create a team from a
Mhm.
SharePoint team site that is already an Office 365 group, follow
Yeah.
that through. We are on our project hub site. We are creating our project team site, and then we can teamify it, and it
Mhm.
becomes all connected, and we can use those capabilities to facilitate teamwork
Yep.
around the project.
Team, go team.
Yeah. All right. Lastly, we have some changes around presence between Teams and Skype for business users. Wow, my curtain's really going for it there. Whoa.
Being attacked.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's right. Yeah, it's a nice Saturday afternoon here.
So
Oh, did I
this
let it slip?
this this is this one has been a common, I won't say complaint, but maybe it is, but
Sure, it
a,
has.
com a common
Uh,
issue
why isn't my
is
presence changing fast enough?
right. And so what they've done is say, especially for those organizations that are in transition mode, and that transition mode can last from, you know, months to maybe even years, right? I mean,
We
depending on
expect
how
so.
big you
Yeah.
are, I mean, it could be a long time. So, during this transition time, you got people on Skype, people on Teams. So for those users that are in Teams only mode, so that's what they're doing. They're only Teams. Then Teams is going to drive the presence.
Mm-hmm.
So that's great. Basically, for every other mode, the Skype for business only, Skype with Teams for collab, and Skype for Teams collab and meetings,
Mm-hmm.
um, those modes are going to be, Skype is going to drive your presence. But it's being definitive. This is what's driving your presence. And you made a point about this kind of making sense for those that have those Skype roles still, part
Mm.
of presence being reliant on that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I know that the Federation story is still being built out, and it all depends on which mode you're in. But for many of us who still heavily rely on being logged into one place and not having to worry about switching tenants to connect with people, this becomes important. So yeah, you could say that this presence is a la mode. Really, that's what it all depends on. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Um, but yeah, I think you're right. It is. It is. We can't say that it will last years, but we know that some of these changes can take that long as you shift people
Yeah.
over, and as organisations gain more confidence in what has been said
Yeah.
about teams being at parity. I
Yeah.
guess it will become more
Right.
paritable.
Heritable.
Yeah.
Um, so, for small companies, your transition period is probably, you could probably count it in weeks, right?
Mm,
And say, we're going to test it. Yeah, it works. Here's how we're going to learn it. Do a couple of, lunch and learns with, your 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 people, whatever, and then transition everybody over. And now you're using Teams. I mean,
Mm.
and you probably could do that. For medium size, even, you're probably going to have a group of people, and maybe that's an IT who jump on it quickly and go, okay, let's pound it and try to figure out how it works for us. And then that could be unbeknownst to everybody else, right?
Mm.
They're just testing this, and that could go on for weeks, and then maybe they bring in somebody from a department or from different departments, and you know, so even a medium-sized company, just a couple hundred people or maybe more, it could be months. You could be looking at a 6-month, 8-month long project just because you're playing around. Well, that playing around time, you're coexisting with Teams and Skype, right? So
Yep.
even as soon as you switch somebody over to Teams only mode, you're you're in that transition. Um,
Look, I think there's another aspect of this too, and it can be political internally, is
yeah,
that some organisations have put in a lot of investment and have only just got themselves to a standard platform across all meeting rooms, across an enterprise voice solution, and
hmm
across just one-to-one collaboration, and it's taken some point to get the organisation to change to that, and their culture to change to that.
yeah,
So we know that there are some solutions that have been put in place to help your existing hardware work with Teams. There's third-party services as well to be able to bridge and make sure that all of the meeting connections all come together. But it's not going to be a full experience
mm,
necessarily of all the meeting equipment and solution that you might have there at this stage. So that all
right,
that sort of consideration of, like, I've even heard of organisations that have deliberately turned off certain features in Teams because they have felt, well, we've done this in Skype, we don't want to confuse the water, so we're going to turn video off
mm,
here, we're going to turn chat off here, and people are going to use Skype for that, but they're going to use Teams for this. So
mm,
that
yeah.
that's
It
that's why it'll take a
it
while.
Well, and I think this is one of those. If Microsoft wanted everyone to switch to Teams immediately, like just ditch it and switch over now, then I think they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot when they have this, when they say things like "do whatever works for you," right? What application should I use for X? Do what works for you, right?
Mm,
That's what the answer is, and um, whatever, however, that should I use Yammer? Should I use Teams? Should I use, do what works for your team? Well, what works for my team in your example you just gave is we just trained everybody on Skype and they're all using it and it's actually getting traction. It's great. I don't want to shift them again. So that's what works for me. So I'm turning Teams stuff off. Now, do I like that? No, because I think Teams is a better experience on many levels,
mm.
especially with video and chat. Um,
Or
but
persistent messaging too, there's
right,
all that
no,
sort of
that's
stuff.
what I mean. Yep,
Yeah.
yep. So I think I totally get it, and so um, that's why I think most organizations are in a transition period, whether they know it or not. Because
Mm,
even if you say we're not using Teams for, all that, there's somebody going to be on it, that has testing it and playing with it and trying to get what is it we need to do to prepare to get to where we need to be.
mm,
So anyway, I think back to this message. I think this is a good thing, giving you a definitive answer as to what's driving my presence. And again, the additional information on this one I think is a good one. It's a specific post about how all this works and talks about how the communication is happening, and then obviously talks about islands mode that we didn't mention before. So anyway, this is a good one. This week is a
mm.
good week for additional information posts.
Yep, yep. Yeah, it is referencing helpful stuff. Even this graphic is actually nice and clear to say, if you're in this mode, this is where we expect traffic to be going in terms of your calls and your IMs, and how presence will work too.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, I think lastly, to finish off, as an extension of our discussion last week about emails that were going to be sent to help educate users, we know that the decision or the motion has been put on pause while they consider customer feedback. The discussion has continued throughout the community, but it is becoming more balanced. While we have heard admins and comms managers say, whoa, hang on, no way, we don't want that. We want to be in full control of what we send to our people. Microsoft, you are, as one person put it, you are not an educator, which I think is just kind of crazy because they write the software. Where else would we start from? But it's becoming a more balanced discussion that there is the potential for that same material to be given to organizations so they can customize it, use it as a starting point, and inform their users, which is really what Microsoft's trying to solve.
And I love that. And when we were talking about it, you remember that's exactly what I was saying. I think it would be great to have, whether it's a workflow or if it's just here an admin or, designated person, here's some materials that you could use, so that we could wrap that into our newsletter or our news post in our intranet. I think that's a great idea, and I fully support that. I love the idea of them providing those resources, especially for, I'm hoping, and what we are accustomed to from Microsoft is high quality content. So to be able to create, deliver high quality content to our users, and I don't have to recreate it. I don't have to come from scratch on this. It reduces my workload as someone who's responsible for educating my users about things that are available to them. I think it's a huge win. It's just don't spam them.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Don't send it direct.
And one thing that I don't know if we and one thing I was going to say, I don't think we talked about last week, but was this, and I'm working with an organization now that is very heavily on making sure people don't get spoofed or fall for spoofing, right? Where they get an email and it looks like it's from the organization, or it looks like it's from Microsoft. They have ways to check. There are ways, that they come up with, and I won't divulge them, but just to say, okay, user, if you want to know if this email is legit from the company, go here, and there's a comparison that you can make to say, okay, that's a legit email or not.
Yeah.
And if Microsoft's sending it directly, you won't be able to do that. No. So, users will be like, this is bad, delete, unsubscribe. Well, hopefully they wouldn't click unsubscribe because that's a link in an email they don't trust. Anyway, so sorry, but they wouldn't read it. And so I think it's a great idea to kind of pause it, give the power to, give the information, the high quality content. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, let's hope that it takes that direction.
Yep.
So yeah, that's a wrap. We as a team also thinking about what's coming up next. Are we going to do another debate? What sort of topics are we going to cover? We've got our friend Jethro Seggers, who's going to organise the team to cover security in December, and have some interesting discussions around that. Not necessarily a debate, because I do like how he said it, that is security really a debate? Not really. There's a few things we can talk about it, but we definitely, everyone needs to be secure.
And let me say, Darrell, I think for the people who are watching the show, especially those that have watched this whole entire episode and have gotten here.
Wow. Thank you.
Good job. Big thumbs up. Is we'd like to hear from you. And what would you like to hear a panel of experts to debate? And and it's not about debating and fussing or yelling. We don't do that. It's about bringing out points and discussing points and coming up with the pros and cons to help you make decisions. So what are those items that you would like to see, those topics that you would like to see a panel? Please hit us up on Twitter, and catch us if you see us in person, whatever. Let us know. We'd like to hear what your ideas are.
Definitely. Yep. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Just to finish off too, at current time of this recording is still Movember. it is chugging along, this mow of mine. But look, it's about recognizing mental health as our topic that we're focusing on, and particularly in the IT industry, but about talking about challenges and stress, and making sure that we're covering each other and looking after each other. So keep that up, and we'll see you again next week. Bye for now.